So I'm Aryeh Stein. I'm professor in the Hubert Department of Global Health at the Rollins School of Public Health at Emory University in Atlanta in Georgia, USA. I am a life course epidemiologist. I have a background in nutrition and in epidemiology. And I've been working with the INCAP nutrition longitudinal trial since I joined Emory in 1998. The trial itself started in the mid-1960s. The original intent was to test the hypothesis that improved protein nutrition specifically during pregnancy and in the early years would improve cognitive development of children. The trial was set up in a Spanish-speaking area of Guatemala. It was set up as a community randomized trial. The original design called for 3 pairs of villages. Due to budget constraints, the actual implementation involved 2 pairs of villages. One village pair was slightly larger. One pair was slightly smaller. Within each pair, one village was randomized to what we call atole. Atole in Spanish means porridge. Porridge-like semolina made with Inca farina, which is a locally derived complementary food that's still produced and sold and widely consumed in Guatemala. It also had skim milk, and it had some sugar for additional flavor and a micronutrient mix. In the other village, the population was eligible and received fresco, which this is essentially just a soft drink. It had sugar for and some flavoring, and again had some micronutrients. The beverages were available at a central point in the village twice each day, once in mid-morning, once in mid-afternoon, 7 days a week. It was available to everybody. Intakes were recorded for women who were known to be pregnant or lactating, and for children under the age of 7. So kind of the focus was on that age group, but because this was a community intervention, anybody who wanted to come along and get a glass of the supplement was allowed to do so. The study was launched in 1969. At that point, all children in the village who were under the age of 7 were recruited into the study, and any child who gave birth, any woman who gave birth to a child, the child was recruited from birth onwards until the end of the study in 1977. Over the course of the study, just under 2,400 children were enrolled in the study across the 4 villages. So roughly 150 births per year. The study went on for about 8 years. And then there were all the children who had already been born prior to study launch. The study at the time was able to clearly show that the supplementation improved linear growth in childhood, but that was really not the focus. That was kind of assumed to be the case, that if you gave children better food, they would grow better. And that was really just a test of the fidelity of the intervention. That was not a scientific hypothesis. It was a bit like in a micronutrient supplementation trial where you take blood samples and you expect the micronutrient levels to go up in the intervention group. It's not interesting. What was interesting and what was the focus of the study were questions around cognitive development. And there was a large battery of cognitive tests implemented across the ages, starting in infancy. And as the children got older, the tests got more and more nuanced. The study was halted in 1977 by the funders, the US Public Health Service and NIH, largely because of funding issues. It had been kind of originally envisaged to go on for longer. The study in 1977 had not clearly demonstrated any major impact of the intervention on child development. There were some signals. It was kind of, if you squinted at the data, you saw things, but it wasn't a clear signal. One of the investigators at the time, Ronaldo Monterrell, then in the 1980s, came up with the idea to go back to the study sample, and who were then between ages 11 and 25, and look to see if there had been kind of any longer term impact of the intervention on kind of all sorts of measures of child of development. Now, these are then now adolescents and young adults. They found that exposure to the intervention in early childhood was associated with greater lean body mass, greater strength, and some improvements in intellectual function. That led the impetus to continue to study this population, and we have, over the subsequent decades, studied them. They are now, on average, 45 years old. The study celebrated last month its 50th anniversary of the study launch, and with a symposium in Guatemala where we presented some of the findings over these 50 years. There have been well over 300 publications that have come out of the study.